Let's have a look. And it's going to work on Facebook too. Shall I go live now on Facebook too?
Yeah.
Let's start early. It's a great idea.
Everybody is going to stress.
I know. Hello, if you're there, everyone's going to think, no, how can they be early?
It's crazy.
This is
Crazy.
madness. Right,
Did we miss it? What's going on?
I'm going to see. So some people on the post that we did earlier that wanted to be here. So I should probably try and see if I can share into there so that people can see it. Anyway, if you are here, sorry, wittering on, um, do feel free to join us and say hello. There we go. Do you know, sometimes it's like I know what I'm doing. It's extraordinary. Although I just managed to not post it properly. Come on. Yay. Brilliant, 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 brilliant. Right, now I can see if anybody's actually watching it. I think we've just surprised everybody with our amazing earliness, which never happens. Super duper. So I should. Yay, be able to go to YouTube as well and see if there's anybody there. Let us know if you're there. Now, of course, the timings were wrong as well because of the whole clock change thing, which is very annoying. Ah, Katrina, we are early. I know. Who would have believed it? I was like determined we weren't going to be late. Hi, Marion.
Please not do this.
How is everybody? I'm just very proud that we got it working. Very proud. No, that's not going to work.
Sorry, guys, I'm a bit distracted. We had rain all day. Rain in the desert. So exciting. So now the dogs are also doing so.
Kind of weird though, isn't it? Because like you get me moaning about the rain here all the time, like most of the days, because that's what happens. And then you get some rain and you're super excited. Having said that, if we do have a heat wave, I will be excited if it rains. Good evening, Alison.
You have a heat wave now?
No, but if we do have one later in the year.
I was a little bit confused there for a second.
Yeah. No, we haven't. Well, actually, it's a lovely day today.
Good for you.
Beautiful. Deb is listening in. Hey, Deb. Deb from our festival.
Hey, awesome.
Brilliant. If anybody happens to
see you.
have any, random questions on blind or deaf dogs, now
Now's your
would be a
chance. Sorry,
now
Deb.
would be a great time. How are you, Deb, anyway? It's been a while since we've seen you. Missing you around. Right. We better wait a few minutes because we usually have so many techie problems and then get here late, don't we?
Yeah.
So we better give people time. And I feel bad because I think the times were wrong for the US because they've changed their times and I didn't change and it's confusing. Hi, LJ. How you doing? More wins, I see. Double checking on the old YouTube. So you've got a conditioning session later, have you, with
I
Nala?
actually just got a message here. I think I got my time wrong. I think it's starting just now.
Oops.
Yeah.
Do you need to go and I will hold the fort
Will
here
you be
momentarily?
happy to do that? I'm
Of
really
course I
sorry.
am. If it's for
I'm really
Noah, I wouldn't do it
sorry.
for you, obviously. But I
Yeah.
will do it for Noah.
Thank you. Okay.
Hey, Marianne. Hey, Barrett. Hope everyone is good. So it might just end up being me now. You poor things.
Yeah, no, rubbish. You're gonna have a whale of a time.
Always
Me,
have a whale of a time. I love doing the lives. It's one of my favorite
your
things to do.
favorite
They're
thing.
so much
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't know what happened because we had a whole long thing on. Anyway, I might just be back in 5 minutes time.
Okay,
But
well,
for
we'll
now,
just
I just have to
we'll
run.
carry on without you, and we'll pretend you're
Okay.
not there. Okay.
All right. After all the missioning and early missioning of getting the Zoom thingy up. Anyway, I'll pop
I know.
out
We were so
and then.
excited for
Okay.
getting everything working.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
bob out and come back in if you need to.
No, no, I think it is. She says it's right now. Okay, girl. I don't know how that happened again. Me and time.
I know,
Okay.
you and time. Huh, call yourself an
Sorry.
analyzer.
Don't disown me.
I won't disown
Ciao, everyone. Have fun.
you.
Sorry.
Oh, bless you. Yeah, well, we all know, don't we? We all know that our dogs come first all the time, every time. So, and that's the best thing about working, me and Barbara working together as we cover for each other if we need to, because we've both had issues. Right. Tell you what, let's just get on with it, shall we? Let's just get on with it. So, what we are looking at today is what the message is behind our dog's reactivity. So why they are reacting and what's the point of their reaction and how do we decode exactly what they're trying to tell us and actually change that for good. And the reason it's so important is because, as we know, I mean, gosh, you lot who come to these lives and stuff, know that reactivity, it's not about bad behavior, it's just about a need that needs to be met. So, and we're also going to be looking at the sort of frustrations that we as owners face when trying to fix reactivity. So, what's the most frustrating part of dealing with reactivity for you? So it could be when the reactivity is actually happening, it could be training for it, it could be anything. But what parts do you find particularly frustration? If you can bob in the comments, that would be lovely. Keeping an eye. I hate the Facebook lag. I wish everything was instantaneous. I'm not very good at being patient. For me, what would I say is the most frustrating part of reactivity? I think for me, it's when you're really trying to dig into what you need to do about it, and it's not obvious, and it's really difficult to see what the root cause is that day. Yeah, LJ says dealing with people, absolutely. People that don't get it. Some people are brilliant, aren't they? And some people are absolutely hopeless. Hiya, Sue. How are you? At whatever time in the morning it is for you. Bless you. I do love that you turn up for us anyway, even though it's the middle of the night. So, Alison, when I plan and rehearse what to do, and then the moment I sometimes panic and muck up. Yes, yeah, I think every single person in here is relating to Alison there, where you've got your plan and it happens, and then you just go, and everything goes horribly wrong. Let's pop a heart in the comments if we are totally relating to Alison, and that you've got a brilliant plan, and then something happens and it doesn't go to plan, and it all goes a bit horribly wrong. Just so that you know that you're not on your own, which I'm sure you do know that you're not on your own. But I just think it's really nice that we can all have a bit of a bit of a bit of solidarity there with Alison. Yeah, we've got hearts everywhere for you. Um, oh, Berit, this is another lovely one. So it just that feeling you can't make her understand that she doesn't have to react. You want to be able to just say to your dog, don't you? It's like, it's okay. I've got the situation under control. We're safe. Everything's going to be okay. That's all we want to do, isn't it? Yeah, I can so relate to that. You want to kind of dig into their brains and make them feel like the situation is all right. Because you could just imagine their fear, their anxiety, and you think, oh, my poor little pup stuff. Totally, totally get them. So what we know is when our dogs are reacting, they're trying to achieve something. So it's driven by emotion and it's trying to achieve something that will make them feel better. It serves a very definite function. So for your particular dog, if you can bob in the comments, what do you think your dog's reactivity is trying to accomplish for them? What do you think it's trying to accomplish for them? So there are lots of different options, and I will go through some things, but what's your gut feeling that they are trying to achieve from their reactivity? Katrina's put, we sometimes overreact when it's not needed. Do you know what? We do, if you're talking about as human beings, of course we do. We absolutely, I do it all the time. Particularly when it's things that you care about. So it's like your dogs or family or something like that. I've got an adult son who's had some struggles with mental health and stuff. So whenever he has a little bump in the road, he also lives the other side of the world. If he has a little bump in the road, I do tend to overreact because even though he's doing brilliantly, he's got everything under control, it's all really well managed, all that kind of stuff. There's still a bit of me that thinks back to the doom and dark days when it was really bad. So yeah, I do tend to overreact based on past experience. And I think our dogs are a little bit like that as well. Right. Marianne's not sure, and that's totally understandable. Hopefully, Marianne, when we and anybody else, when I go through some of the reasons that it might be, something will click with you and you'll think, actually, that's a good point. So LJ, when Bodhi does react, I know I've messed up by putting in a situation or environment he's not ready to handle comfortably, but try not to beat yourself up, LJ. You know, it happens, it's life. I'm sharing a little story next Thursday next week, I think, about a walk where something similar happened to me. So yeah. So Alison's getting rid of the trigger so they can have time to work out whether it was a genuine threat. Yep, to try and make something go away. Exactly. Sue says make it go away 100%. Wants space and to feel safe, but sometimes it might be frustration on lead. Yeah, totally. That's a couple of really, really great reasons. So the sorts of things that can be absolutely right, making space. Oh, LJ, thank you. We can't stop trying to fix things for kids. I know, even when they're big. So yes, our dogs want to make space. So if we think back to that lizard part of the brain that we all go into when there's a perceived threat, and our dogs go into when we've got that fight, flight, freeze, fool around. They can't do the flight bit because we've trapped them, we've put them on a lead. So a lot of our dogs are resorting to fight. And that's where the reactivity, because they can't make space by moving away, they have to make space by making the other thing move away. Another thing could be they want to stop. This is a kind of a making space, but it's quite a specific example. So it can be stopping touch. So say you have a dog that's got some discomfort somewhere. So say they've got any discomfort along their spine. It can even be a skin irritation, or it could be gastro upset. It can be anything. My Hattie, my old girl, is a great example with her arthritis. And that touch can then feel even more scary because it might hurt. It could be a dog for whom any kind of touch is scary for lots of other reasons, historical reasons. It can also be them managing their fear. So we've talked a lot about how feeling safe is so important. And if you have a fearful dog and they start to feel unsafe, they might go into their bag of things that I can cope with feeling this way, and the only thing in there is to bark and lunge and react. They just haven't got another strategy. Or as some of you said, so Marion has said, and LJ, was it LJ that said earlier, or somebody else? Oh, Katrina, I think it was. It's that expression of frustration. They want something that they can't have. So we know we've got all those, all those great ideas. So what we can do is we can reframe it. So instead of asking ourselves, how do I stop my dog from reacting? Perhaps a better question is, what is it that my dog needs at the moment? What is my dog telling me that they need at this moment? And then if we can work out how we can meet that need, and we carry on and we repeatedly meet that need. I mean, we're going to try and avoid reactions, but when our dog starts feeling uncomfortable because we're watching their body language, so they know that they're starting to feel uncomfortable, we'll talk about that part of it next week, actually. And if we can continually meet that need, so the dog has that trust that that will happen, then their need to react starts to go away. So, couple of, oh, Barrett, attack is the best defense, just in case. Yeah, totally. LJ used to want Bodhi to help you cope in uncomfortable situations. He's taught me that we can see together by going slowly and making sure we both have enough space to feel safe. What I really like about your situation with Bodhi, LJ, is the fact that having him and him being the way he is and having his worries and his fears and all that kind of stuff, while on the surface and on the outside, it might seem, well, actually, that's not great for an emotional support dog. But actually, the reality is it means that you can focus on what his needs are, and thereby you're helping yourself to meet your own needs as well, because your needs are overlapping, which is amazing. So, have you noticed, people, any patterns in when and where your dog reacts? So if you could pop in the comments when and where your dog reacts. So I might put for that for Dash the Dude. In terms of where, it would be in more enclosed spaces. So paths with lots of vegetation on either side. In terms of when he would probably, well, when his bucket's filling up, but that's kind of goes without saying, but it tends to be more at night. For example, oh, Teresa's watching as well, which is super. So if you can bob in the comments what that looks like, what the when and where look like for your dogs. Let's see what bits of common ground we've got. Oh, oh, my feed's just frozen. Oh my goodness me. I just went in to look to so I could see the comments, and it's going to a totally different live, which is very frustrating. So, Berrett, what I call muscle dogs is high on the list, and yes, darkness makes it worse. Berrett, you're going to love the share that I will put in the post next Thursday. Muscle dogs came into it as well, definitely. Um, so yeah, seeing and understanding those patterns is so useful for us because it gives us power, doesn't it? Because we can then control the environment, we can control when we walk our dogs, where we walk our dogs, who we see, all that kind of stuff. Mary Ann says, while on a walk, especially if another dog sneaks up on us. And that's actually really interesting, Mary Ann, because with some dogs, they react when they see a dog in the distance and then they approach it. Or with some dogs, they're fine if they see a dog in the distance. It's only when they start approaching. And then with other dogs, they're not too bad with that. It's when one appears out of the blue. And again, my share that I'm doing next Thursday has a sneaky dog in it as well. And it's because of, I've spoken about this before, but many of you may not have caught this. It's because of how dogs interact. because our dogs have this interaction chain. They see each other, they approach each other, they go nose to nose, they go round to the rear, and then they either walk off from each other or there's some sort of interaction. And it always works in that chain. But the problem is that chain gets broken. And when and how our dogs react can depend on where the break in that chain is. So, for example, what you were saying then, Marianne, if a dog is sneaking up on you, then for your dog, it's likely that the broken bit is in the nose to nose or going round to the bum sniff. That's going to be a problem. Now, what you find, so Hattie was like that. In fact, she can't be doing with the bum sniff. So that was where her interaction chain gets broken. But because you end up with that prediction. So when they see the dog, they're predicting it's going to be close and then it's going to be round to the rear. That can be why sometimes they'll react when they see them. But for a dog like that, that surprise is really, 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 really hard. So I totally get that. Alison, where local regular walks when just stress stacking increases, so multiple factors, yeah. And that's got to be the biggest one, hasn't it? Is the bucket. Where's the bucket at? And thinking about where's the bucket been at over the last 3 days, for example. It's usually quite a good time frame to have a look at. So Sue says definitely when getting towards dark is worst. And Deb, if you're still there, this will resonate with you because one thing we find is when dogs start losing their eyesight, their reactivity can get worse because it's one of their senses that's been deadened. So they can't rely on that anymore. So they have to be a little bit more on guard. And that's something that Deb and I spoke about in the festival. Whenever a golden retriever appears, isn't it weird sometimes? Unless there's a very obvious reason, and there will be a reason in there somewhere that we probably don't even know about, but sometimes the breeds of dogs or the types of dogs that our dogs pick to have a particular issue with, you think, why a golden retriever? I mean, you know. So the chances are it's because there's been some sort of experience in their past which has had a golden retriever, whether directly or indirectly involved with it, just so that there's that connection there. So Katrina says less often in urban areas, good in cafes and at the vets where other dogs are on lead, most difficult in the forest where dogs are off lead, and when there's lots of prey about and aroused by the environment. And absolutely, dogs out of the blue and the lone dog. And isn't it hilarious? I mean, I remember working with a German Shepherd once, and this German Shepherd was massively reactive to people. Like she really struggled big time. But we went for a walk with her because I thought, we'll go for a walk and, she can, learn to have me in proximity at least. So it was a good place to start. And it was in Manchester, so it was in a busy place, and it was just as schools were finishing. So there were loads of kids around, and it was really, really busy. And this German Shepherd, cool as a cucumber in the crowds, absolutely fine. But if you were out on in the park and one person came up to us, she'd go absolutely bananas. And it's that kind of that novelty factor, isn't it? Yes, Teresa. Now, white dogs is a thing for charm, isn't it? Because she has had an incident with a white dog. So that kind of fits in Teresa for her, doesn't it? And that's what it usually is. It's just sometimes we're not quite as aware as you are of that. You're having some huge wins recently. Yay! Makes me happy. Marion, open spaces if they're running off lead, dogs chasing a ball, even if they don't approach us. Yep. And that could just be the movement that can be an issue and it's hyper arousing. It can also be that frustration element as well in there. Kathleen, hello. Your dog reacts to noises outside of the house. Absolutely. Children screaming, garbage trucks, anything strange, but doesn't react as much when we are outside and you can see the trigger. And that's all about that agency, isn't it? So when you're in the house, firstly, it's your dog's space. And there is a certain sort of territorialness with some of our dogs. But also, there are walls, so the dog can't actually get away. They have to create spaces, similar to being on lead. Whereas when you're out and about, they feel a little bit more in control. Even if they're on lead with some dogs, they're like, well, me and mum can get away from this, no problem. We've got this under control, so I don't need to worry about it. Um, Alison says Tess seems to struggle with spaniels, but particularly springers. I think it might be the wiggly movement. And do you know what it could be? And it could be that, you know how spaniels have got, anytime you meet a spaniel, they're always, if they could say anything, they would be telling you that today is the best day ever. That's a spaniel mindset, isn't it? But they are so bouncy, some dogs can find them really rude because they are so ebullient and bouncy and excitable. And I think you're absolutely right. Um, Super duper. Right, I'll carry on. I do get so into all of this, so exciting. Okay, so what's the three-step plan that we're going to do? So the first one, and some of this you will know, but hopefully if we put it all together, it will I've lost it all again. It will give you a little bit of clarity for you, which will hopefully help you to really deal with that reactivity and look at it in a slightly different light. So, three steps. Step one. First one is adjust the environment to set them up for success. So we know about with triggers, we need to create distance. We know that a lot of the reasons that our dogs are reacting is because they need space for whatever reason, whether it's because they think they might get hurt, maybe it's because they can't run away, so the only way they can get the other dog, person, whatever, to go away is by shouting really loudly at them. So if we think actually, me and my dog, we are on the same team. My dog needs space. I will help them achieve that space. So that's creating distance from the triggers. Okay. It's helping your dog get what they need at that time. So you're satisfying that need. Another one could be using barriers or visual blocks. Now, in one way, barriers can feel bad because it can make the dog feel that they can't escape. But in another way, if there's a barrier in between them and the other dog, that can be reassuring for them. Now, that barrier can be all sorts of things. So it could be a car. It could be you. You can, if you put yourself in between your dog and say the other dog, that can really, really help them. You can, take a different route. So that's kind of putting so if you're walking around your neighborhood, it's like whole houses of barriers. Um, Visual blocks, things like a parked car can be really nice to stop them getting visual access. Now we know that for our dogs, the vision isn't their primary sense, but it's still important. All the senses are important to our dogs, so we need to be mindful of those. And then finally with step one, it's avoiding putting them in situations they're not ready for. And this is all stuff that we've talked about before. It's just reiterating it in the context of meeting our dog's needs at that time. So if we take, so say for example, you have a dog that is reactive to people, you wouldn't put them in a situation where you've got, people coming over to them. You would protect that distance for them. Okay. If you've got a dog reactive dog, then you're not going to put them in a situation where there's dogs in close proximity for them. Not at the moment, not why they can't handle it. There is no point. We need your dog to get over reactivity, you need your dog to totally trust you. And if your dog is going to totally trust you, that means that you have to look after their best interests and advocate for them. And sometimes that can feel like somebody put in the group earlier, didn't they? Was it you, Katrina, that said about, oh, it was, wasn't it? When the was it your husband that told people, no, don't do that when they went over to try and stroke Freya? But which is absolutely right. And sometimes you think, actually, maybe the way I said that wasn't perfect. But we do have to advocate for our dogs because they don't have that. The only voice they've got is the shouty, barky voice, which people think is scary. Now, whether you think that my dog barking and shouting is scarier than me going, no, keep back. That's up for debate. I do try to be a bit politer when I can, but sometimes it doesn't happen, does it? Let's be honest with it, with ourselves, realistically. Um, so yeah, I am struggling massively with the comments again, which is really irritating me. Um, so yeah, those kind of things that we can do in advocating for our dogs have got to be sort of top of our priority list. Yes, your husband and sister, wasn't it, Katrina? It was such a pertinent and great timing for that particular post. It was great. Um, so LJ thinks it's the unpredictability of the environmental situation that bothers Bodhi. He's becoming more confident and optimistic all the time. And that's actually, that's something I really want to do more digging into, is building that optimism and building that confidence and different ways to do that. So, that's something that I'm going to be working on. And obviously, when I work on it, I share it with you guys. Because that's why we're here, isn't it? Right, that's step one, adjust the environment to set them up for success. Step two, stop spotting the early signs of stress. So there's all sorts of things that we can look at. What does your dog do before they react? Now, we do talk about body language a lot. We do talk about reading our dogs a lot. And that the reason we talk about it a lot is because it's so important. And we'll be talking about it more, all the time, just because it's it's your superpower. Learning to speak dog is your superpower. So, and finding things that aren't necessarily the norm and aren't necessarily the things that I'm talking about now. So it could be your dog does a big breath or something, and you think actually they might react now. Those little pouchy lip things. But the thing is, we've got, we talk to. If I look at Dash, let me give you an example. If I look at Dash, his tell that he's about to react is he goes very stiff. But if I can see signs prior to that, it's going to be much easier for me to prevent that reaction, because once the body's gone stiff, it's very difficult for me to get him relaxed and moving and all that kind of stuff. So what I have to look for is signs that are even before that. So it could be the set of his ears, the set of his tail, little tiny things, because the earlier you intervene, the less they have to escalate, because they have that, again, it's about that trust. They have that trust. My owner's got this. I don't need to panic. It's all good. Let's see if this will work now. So Alison said she can read Tess very easily when I can see her face, but it's more difficult when I walk because she's on a lead and I'm behind her. And that's sort of somewhere where, if you've done the work on the body language from the face perspective. So now it's going to be looking for we're looking for the real subtleties of body language. And we're looking at posture. We're looking at where she's carrying her weight. Does her weight shift forward a bit? Does it shift backwards a little bit? What about the tail? Does anything happen to that? Is there something about how she's moving? Because any body language sign that you see doesn't happen in isolation. It's usually with a few different things, some of which we're more aware of than others. So, I totally hear what you're saying, and it can be hard with some dogs to see those things. It might even be, how a coat sits. There might be a little bit of the hackles, whether it's around the neck, but it can also be around the tail, the base of the tail. That can happen. But I think actually a really good one for you to look out for, and what I would be doing is really looking at, you don't want to put in these situations, so just look at little things, but look at her movement and look at her weight distribution. I think that could be quite interesting for you. So Marianne says tuxedo arches his back. Yeah, really, really nice one. And what would be interesting for him is when you've got a dog that Whether it's his arch his back or does he concertina himself a little bit, which results in an arch back because they can be quite different. If it's more, we call that roaching when they concertina themselves in, and it's often a way that dogs have of trying to protect their gut area, which is one of their, most vulnerable spots. So it kind of makes sense. So Louise says that she and Bella have been to Nadex today. They were able to sit down to watch a lot of the speakers I wanted to see it as a wins last year. We just stayed at the back. Brilliant. I've been working with Louise and I and Bella have been working together, and Bella is just doing so well. So well. And Bella has to do some challenging things in her like little life, doesn't she? Because of the work that you do. Freya starts prancing and staring, making herself bigger. So there's all these tells. So when we talk about body language, we quite often will say, oh, my dog does X, my dog does Y. Let's see if we can find more. Let's see if we can find more. And let's challenge ourselves to see if we can see signs before the signs. So the signs that you are now aware of, because you're amazing owners and you've been looking out for all these sorts of things, you're getting really brilliant at, okay, can we take it to the next level? Can we take it to the next level? So that's a little challenge for everybody that you can post in the group if you like. So that's our step 2. And then step 3 is about reinforcing calm choices. So we want to tell our dogs that actually looking away from the thing or choosing to disengage is actually a great choice. And that focusing on you is much better. Now, just be a little bit careful because if you have a dog that is in mid-react, there's not much point in that really, because that ship has sailed. But if you're getting these little subtle signs that your dog is going to react if something doesn't change, and then they choose to disengage or they choose to focus on you instead, then we can reward them. But just as I say, be careful because when I say reward them, that doesn't mean necessarily to give them food. Because for many dogs, many reactive dogs, it's going to feel quite difficult, if not impossible, to take food when they're stressed. So could you put a pineapple in the comments if your dog, when they're out and about and they have any sort of stress at all, will totally stop taking any sort of food? If your dog will eat food regardless, could you, any food regardless, could you put a watermelon in the comments? And if your dog will take only high value food, like something amazing, when they're a little bit stressed, put an apple in the comments. So it's pineapple for my dog won't take anything at all when they get stressed. We've got, what was it? Watermelon for my dog will always eat food no matter what. And apple for my dog will take food, but it has to be something super, super high value. So I'd just be really interested to see. I think for both of mine, actually, they are, I probably watermelon and, no, not watermelon. It would be a combination of pineapple and apple. So if they're super stressed, they won't take anything at all, regardless. But if they're a little bit stressed, we can quite often get away with a bit of chicken or something like that instead. Oh, right. Well, we got some apples. Yep. So we've got a variety. Pineapples, apples. So move from pineapple to apple to watermelon. That tends to be the way it goes, isn't it? Which is great. So if you've got a pineapple dog, so you've got a dog, they get stressed, they're not going to take anything, then please don't try and give them food when they're stressed because it can feel really punishing. It's not very nice. The best reward you can give that dog is to give them space, to create space for them, and just to be there. Maybe they might like some touch or some calm words, depends on your dog, what they find reinforcing in that moment. Because just remember, when we talk about punishment and reinforcement, it's not for us to decide what is punishing or reinforcing for our dogs, it's for them. So even though giving them a nice bit of chicken might seem like a great idea, if they're too stressed to have it, it's gonna feel punishing. And it's like, when I was saying about when I overreact, if you then, I think my husband's tried to do it and he's comes like, oh, have some chocolate. It's like, I don't want sodding chocolate. And I get really, really annoyed. I'm so horrible sometimes. But it's like that with our dogs. So think about actually what's going to make things better for them, what's going to satisfy their need. And that is going to be the most reinforcing thing that you can do for them. So that's what we want to do. She will for a toys, not food. Yeah, using toys sometimes can be the greatest reinforcement when they can't take food. I'll give you another idea actually that that I just thought of. So don't just wait for them to react. We need to set them up for success so they don't feel that they need to react. So thinking about those needs all the time and making calm behavior more rewarding than reacting. So because we know that our dogs are reacting to satisfy a need because they want to achieve something, let's make it so that our dogs can achieve the thing, whatever it is, without the reaction. And we need to make that happen for them. Does that make sense? I hope it does. So let's say you have a pineapple dog or a apple dog. So you've got a dog that is, if it's a new situation or they're just under a little bit of stress, they don't want to take food. What can you do? Well, there's a little technique that I quite like to use. It's not going to work in an extreme case. So if you've got a dog reactive dog, it's not going to work when there's loads of dogs around. But you know how if you go to a new place and you've got a reactive dog and they're super vigilant and they're on edge anyway, even though there's nothing there, because they're predicting the thing. This technique can sometimes help to settle them because it's using movement to help settle them. So start walking in a nice big figure eight. Now, the reason I use a figure eight is because it makes you less dizzy than a circle. And B, it's a lovely smooth kind of shape. And you want the movement to be as smooth as possible. Try each time you go around the figure eight to go over the same ground again, because if there's things that your dog's looking at and sniffing, if they're going over the same ground over and over and over again, those are going to become less important as they go around the eighth time. And just, keep walking. Don't worry about what your dog's doing. They can do what they like. Just keep walking. And then if they give you any focus, so if they're focused on the environment and then suddenly they look at you, but they're not going to take food, what you can try doing is just running a few steps if you can. Okay, so instead of giving food as a reward, we're giving speed as a reward. And just see what happens and keep doing that. They look at you, you're going to run. And if it's reinforcing because they'll start looking at you more, obviously. But because you're using movement, you're calming them down. When they start looking at you more, you can start slowing your normal walking down a little bit and just run a little bit when they look at you. Now, for some dogs, this is going to take, 20 minutes. Some dogs, it'll work really, really quickly. So, it's not for everybody going to be an instant fix. Once they've started doing that, you could try doing something like when they look at you, if you want to use food, instead of the running, you could try dropping a piece of food on the floor in front of them. That gives them the choice. So they can either eat it or they can ignore it. So that means it's not going to be punishing for them. If they ignore it, go back to doing the running thing. If they take it, carry on doing that for a bit, and then eventually they might want to take from the hand. It's just quite a nice little strategy that I use quite a lot in different places. Sorry, just Alison's comment. I tried this with Tess. She found it inexplicably difficult. I'm absolutely fascinated to know what it was that she found difficult, but I don't know if we've got time to go into that in detail, but I am fascinated. Yeah, bit of tea touch or toys can work on occasion as well, which are all really, really super good ideas. Okay, so You've got the task I want you to do is try and find the signal before the signal in your dog's body language. So we're going to try and take it to the next level. Um, we're also going to be looking at changes to our dog's environment. So remember that reactivity, it's not just behavior, it's communication. Um, our job as owners is to figure out what it is that your dog needs and then to be able to meet that need before the dog reacts. And remember that little changes can make a big difference. It's about setting them up for success. So the more we understand why our dogs are reacting, the more we can support them in a way that is actually going to help and make them feel more safe and secure. And, Barbara and I just loved that quote from Andy Hale from the festival, where he said, the thing with safety is you can't teach it, it has to be felt. And that is so important. So all we can do is change the environment and what's happening so that the dog can feel that safety. And we do that by understanding what their need is and meeting that need for them and with them. I hope that makes sense. So we had 3 steps. The 3 steps were adjusting the environment to set them up for success, spot the super early signs of stress, and then reinforcing calm choices. Which one of those do you think is going to have the most impact with your dog? So put 1, 2, or 3 in the comments, please. So LJ does figure 8 walking and walking backwards. Figure 8 walking is absolutely magical. I like that little addition of change in pace as well, which is a cool one. Another one that you could try, Alison, actually, if you're finding it really difficult, instead of going straight for the figure 8, when you're really annoyed about something and somebody just goes, calm down, and you want to punch them because you're up here and they're down here and they're trying to just pull you down and you're not ready. Sometimes our dogs can get that frustration because if we do like the figure 8, we're trying to bring them down too quickly. So if you can meet them where they are by doing maybe walk in a zigzag, for example, start by walking in a zigzag, try it that way first, then go to a circle, then go to a figure 8. So it's a much more slow bringing them down. It's worth a look. So yeah, which are the strategies? Number 1 for LJ, because the earlier I notice, the quicker I can respond. Marion says, when my dog freezes, we can't walk anywhere as he won't budge. I usually have to dance around him and try and distract him. And so that's why for you, Marion, this challenge of finding the tiny signal before the freeze so that he hasn't had a chance to do that yet. Because once he's frozen, he's gone really, isn't he? You've lost him. So we need to find what's the signal before that, or what's even 2 signals before that, because that's when you're going to have much more success at intervening. And it's difficult. I'm not saying it's easy. It's not easy. It is difficult. You have to be a proper detective to kind of really dig into that one, but it's well worth really going into that. So 3 for you, Katrina. Reinforcing those calm choices. Super duper. Okie dokie. So, I mean, if you are people that haven't done the reactivity reboot, and you'll have seen last week we did the early bird finding your footing for the reactivity roadmap. The reactivity roadmap is what's going to be replacing in the long term the reboot, so you can do it in a sort of modular way instead. So if you do want to dig deeper and get some really good success, then the reactivity roadmap, finding your footing, is kind of the starting point really, and it's all the bits that we do with our reactivity teaching that is relevant to everybody regardless of what your dog's reacting to. So it's the foundation of everything, and then we can put bits on for there. So I would, if you want to go into it more, I would definitely recommend going for that. That will be made available generally. I'm sure there will be other offers at some time. I don't think they're going to be quite as spectacular as the early bird one, but we will put some good offers on for that, and it's definitely worth doing. Or you could the other option is just book a diagnostic, and then we can come up with a plan for you and your dogs. Okie dokie. So we did have a question. We did have a question on Facebook. And if you've got any questions, chuck it in the comments and let us know. So the question we had was from Nicole. It's a really interesting one for a lot of you at this time of year, particularly in North America. So Chopin, who's a lovely Havanese, did great when they were in Florida. In general, my mum says things were good, and he even passed some city buses with no reaction. So huge steps from a long time ago for him. Hooray, Chopin. We've just been finding that now, with the snow melting and the spring weather slowly arriving, that he's looking for garbage everywhere and getting into things that I don't want him eating. Oh my goodness me. He will often pull towards something, or if we tried to walk away, he would stop and break with his feet and not move. He's done It's Your Choice a lot, and I've tried the 1, 2, 3 Graham or search where we put treats by our foot or shoe, so he'll come to my side. So these are Susan Garrett games, aren't they? And they're all great. They're all brilliant ideas, which sometimes gets him moving depending on what it is that he's found. At home, he likes to pick up items like socks, mittens, and hats as well. So I would usually trade him for a bone or bully stick or treat to avoid him getting upset, then take something away. And that's absolutely the right thing to be doing, Nicole, because if you don't trade, you risk resource guarding, which we don't want to do. But taking something away on walks is a little trickier because I only have smaller treats that are easy to bring with me, and they don't often get his attention of the item enough. I've tried toys that we could bring on walks, but then he would leave those on the ground, and then eventually I'd have to walk with it, which isn't the most convenient if I want to be paying attention to how I'm handling the leash. Have you got any suggestions? I do have some suggestions, absolutely. I've always got something up my sleeve somewhere. So I actually think that taking toys with you isn't a bad idea. If you could have, a little tuggy or something like that that you could put, those treat bags that you can get, they've got a little bit more room in, they can be really useful. So that sort of thing might be a good idea. The doing stuff like It's Your Choice, massively important. But I think what I would do, I've got a really nice game actually for exactly this. Is you could actually, would I do it? No. You can do this with any type of food. So it's quite a difficult one to describe. So you need something like a plant pot with holes in the bottom, or you could use something like a colander or a sieve. You want something that you can cover food with, but it's got holes in it so that the scent's still getting out, basically. That's what you need. If you can, having another person to help with this is really useful for the third stage, okay? So you start off by getting something really high value, something smelly. So some tuna fish, some chicken, something like that. You're going to put it under, I'm going to say plant pot for now because it's easier. So put the food on the floor, put the plant pot over the top, lift the plant pot, tell your dog to search or whatever your cue is to say you can have that piece of food. And just keep doing that. And that is just building the desire for your dog to get what is underneath that plant pot. Then you're going to do a little bit of It's Your Choice. So you put the food under the plant pot, you'd cover it up, you'd wait for them to, be looking, you want them looking at that plant pot and choosing not to go for it. You take the lid off and then you can hand them the food if they show that kind of impulse control. So that's all quite It's Your Choicey. Then the next stage that I would do is I would have the plant pot with the food underneath it. Your dog's done the It's Your Choice. They've done the paws really nicely. So they're not trying to get the thing under the plant pot. And then what you're going to do is you're going to ask your dog to do something. So it can be any behavior that they know really well, preferably on a verbal cue, but it doesn't matter if it isn't particularly. So you might ask them for a down or a spin or a give paw or a hand touch or something like that. Just ask them to do a thing. So they do the thing, and then if they can do that, you then give them the piece of food. Now, if they can't do that, you need to go back to the It's Your Choice and do more of that, okay? with these behaviors, have at least 3 that your dog can do and do them at random, because our dogs, we know how great they are at predicting. And before you know it, they won't be actually thinking about what they're doing. They'll just be doing. Does that kind of make sense? So that's getting your dog to think, even though they know that the food's there. And then the next step you could do is have the high value food under the plant pot, walk away, call your dog to you. If they come to you, you will then race back to the plant pot, open it up, let your dog have what's underneath it. So you're really teaching that dog that there is huge value in coming away from even high value food. So that is what I would be doing. But I would doing those steps really, really slowly and building up gradually. So I hope that little game is helpful for you. I think it's a really good one. Has anybody else got anything that they want to ask at the moment, or are we all good? I can't see any questions at the moment, which is good. But do feel free to ask any questions that you like. It's been absolutely lovely. Oh, I just changed the settings for when I'm looking at the comments, and I've lost it all. It's too scary. Right, let me see if I can get back to it again, because it keeps no, I think we are all super good. Well, it's been lovely chatting again, as always. It doesn't feel like I'm on my own because you guys talk to me and keep me company. We'll be back on it next week. So, same time. We're going to have a bit of a think about, I think we're going to keep the time the same. Which means it will be different for those of us where the clocks change. So this is the trouble when you're doing things across many time zones, is that not only does everyone have a different time, but all the times change at different times. So yeah, I think we'll keep it at 12:30 Eastern time. And yep, and then for BST, it will then go to, I think, 6:30. I think that's what we're going to do, but we haven't 100% decided yet. It depends. So have a wonderful week. Please share if you notice any of those triggers, not triggers, body language signs or signs your dog is giving before the obvious signs. If you've managed to dig deeper and find anything more, it would be lovely to hear, because I'm sure if you can share, other people will go, oh, that's one I can look out for. It's really helpful. It's been an absolute joy, as always, and I will see you lot